Howdy guys, thanks for tuning in to F&D Outdoors. I want to start out the video by saying I know that Altoid tins are so 2 or 3 years ago in terms of videos. But if you've seen some of my other videos, you've seen I've been to a place called Campcraft Outdoors run by Jason Hunt, and it's a very intense survival school. I've only taken the beginner's class with the intention to take more, but Jason holds a lot of cool events, and this one's online, so I don't have to go all the way to Kentucky to do it, and it is Build Your Own Altoid Survival Tin. Now, one of the first things about it, the contest, is that everything has to fit in here, and that means you can see that it's closed and doesn't spill. Once you can do that, then you can add these survival bands. But what I'm going to go over is my tin and what is inside. And then in March, I'll take this overnight camping, and this is all I get to take. Let's take a look inside now that we see that I can hold it upside down with the lid on. Okay, and nothing is holding it shut. There we go. At Campcraft Outdoors, Jason teaches essentially a five-mind methodology, and that's fire, food, shelter, water, and safety. So we want to take that into mind when we think about this kit. Now, you've already seen me take off the Ranger bands, and not only do these hold our kit together, these have several uses, including a type of 4x4 deadfall trap, shelter, securing debris if you had any plastic or garbage bags or anything that you came across, securing things for shelter, safety. If you needed to use these, you could use them as a splint if you, for part of a splint, if you hurt your fingers, or to keep on wound dressings, things like that. Plenty of uses for Ranger bands. The most obvious thing is the tin itself. Not only does it store everything, at least for the purposes of the activity, but it could have plenty of uses in small quantities. You could use this to boil water if you had to, or possibly cook some squirrel nuggets in or something, or some chipmunk fillets. You could turn this into a spearhead, or you could turn this into another cutting edge if you needed to. So lots of things that you could do with the tin. All right, so let's go here. There we go. We have in here is just a little straw. This is definitely a safety item. This is 3 200 milligram tablets of ibuprofen. It's going a little even further outside of the box, not that I'd want to get rid of the straw, but as I get through into the box, this straw portion here could be used and cut and shred and turned into like a little dress for a fishing lure, which fishing lure is another thing that you could use the tin for while we're at it. You could use it to make like a spoon to help attract other fish, and use this, to dress your hook, just to make it that much more attractive, was a thought. So we have 2 Band-Aids. It looks like we got a dinosaur Band-Aids here from my son's Band-Aid collection. I think that's pretty straightforward what we want to use the Band-Aids for. Subsequently, the paper wrappers, I left them in because you never know when you could use that as a little bit of tinder. Set that there. While we're on the safety kick, let's go in here and pull out this little tube. This is another, obviously, little straw that you could use. You can barely tell that there's anything in there, but there is. You can see the little air bubble. There we go. This is a little tube of Neosporin. All right. I got a Purell wipe, and this is containing alcohol, which means that not only is it for cleaning, that it also would burn in case of a fire. Okay, one of my favorite things, and you can go to pretty much any time you're at a hotel, you can go to the front desk and be like, hey, I popped a button, you have a sewing kit, and you're going to be able to get it. The thing that's great about the sewing kit is it's a kit, and it has lots of different things. As you can see, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pieces of thread, and each piece of thread is 6.5 feet. So you have 36, 37, 38, 39 feet of thread in there, and then you get 2 buttons. If you popped a button, you could mend your clothes. As part of shelter, your clothing is part of your shelter, even though you're not seeking refuge from the weather in your clothes, they help keep you warm, especially if you're out in the cold. You know, keeping your clothes maintained is important. Then in here you have a safety pin, and the safety pin, you know, has not only is it a fastening device, it could also be bent or used to be turned into like a fishing hook. And then also in here is a very small sewing needle, which, you know, when we look at my knife choice later, you'll see that I skipped out on the toothpick and the Swiss Army knife, but the sewing needle, if need be, could be used for that also, to remove slivers or things from under the skin as necessary. And then obviously it's got the little cardboard, more tinder. There's lots of things to do with this sewing kit and everything that it offers. 36 feet of cordage, thin as it may be. Here is a packet of chicken bouillon. I've actually put this in several of the kits that I've made, and for the only use that I want some hot beverage, and if you're out there and you're hungry and you're starving and you're down in the dumps and you can get yourself to a spot where you can boil some water and have something, even just this is going to be a huge mental pick-me-up, not to mention at least the nutrients of the salt and things like that in here. And I know that this is a terrible thing to consume, but you know, when you're sick at home and you're down a hot cup of chicken broth, it makes you feel like $1,000,000, and so that's why it's in there. This is sitting right on top, might as well get to it. Everyone probably knows what this is. This is snare wire, brass snare wire. There is 11 feet in this little spool, which is a good amount. The snare wire could be used for fastening items. My favorite would be for simple snares and catching food. Got a couple of split shot weights here. Again, they would only be really good for fishing, or again, if you found like some refuse and needed to help create a fastening point on like a trash bag or some plastic or spare tire, you could roll those in the buttons, tie your string around there to have a tie down point. But the reason we have those is because under this section of Gorilla Tape, which not only can a Gorilla Tape be used in a first aid situation to help secure a wound, or you can do a really fine job dicing it up to create a fire starter. Man, it's because it's cold, it's really sticking. But underneath there is 24 feet of fishing string and 4 fishing hooks. Also I have in here is this button compass. Let's set it down, and it is in the correct direction. Birthday candle, light it on fire, little fire extender, something to burn. You know, and it'll burn for a minute while I'm trying to light something on fire if I need to. Fire. Obviously, fire keeps you warm. It can help you with a bad shelter. It helps you cook your food if you can manage to catch some food. It helps you boil your water if you get some water. And fire is just important. So I have a lot of things in here for fire. At least I think I do. Okay. Little mini Bic. Obviously, fire again. Fire. One thing to be important when you're putting this Altoids tin kit away, when you got everything in there tight, don't have anything pushing down on the gas button, otherwise your fuel will all leak out. All right, one of the other items I just added, and this came in my most recent Apoca box, is a macro mag light here. Just a little mag light, takes a little, there we go, hello. Takes a little AAA battery, and it's a flashlight for the sake of having a flashlight. It's got a little spare light bulb in the bottom. I guess if you got really desperate, I've seen people use these to start a fire by carefully breaking the glass in the bulb, but I would just use it as a flashlight because I have several other means of fire. There we go. Oh, so when you're starving in the woods, I got 2 Reese's Pieces. Oh man, because that's going to hold you over. I guess you could eat these if you wanted to, and there's a little bit of sugar in there. I would think that these would probably be a better option. I guess they are food, but they would be a better option as some bait for a bait stick. A little sweet peanut buttery smell if you're catching, if you got lucky enough to be somewhere where there's some squirrels or chipmunks, you know, probably be nice that night. But hey, it's something. But then there's a wet fire tab, so even when it's wet, it'll start a fire. Go. And my knife choice. And there's tons of choices for knives out there. I wanted a Swiss Army knife. This is the Farmer. and it is the Alox because it's a little bit thinner than the regular Farmer, but it has on it the cutting blade, which is a nice cutting blade. It's got the can opener, if you are lucky enough to find some canned goods, and the big flathead screwdriver and bottle opener. Now, I always thought this also would be a good chisel when cutting the tin to use for, you know, whether it was a gig or a spearhead or arrowhead or heads or whatever. And then finally, one of the other reasons that I thought I'd take this over other knives is it has the saw. So if I'm getting into a pine tree, you know, I can get in and cut the boughs off away from the tree and do some other little woodworking, carving some of the wedges a little faster. And then finally, it's got this little gouge. My thought is that you could use this not only for a leather punch, but you could also get in there and route out some holes in like some trees or something if you wanted to tap a you know, birch tree for some birch water, things like that. There we go, and it fits pretty snugly in the box. There we go, Alox Farmer, brand new. She's a beauty. Merry Christmas to me. Okay, got in here a little piece of pencil. If I needed to do some markings or write something on some wood or whatever, I could do it with this. It's not sharpened because I have a knife, and I can use the knife to sharpen if I need to. And I can also use this as little wood shavings I have on me, and they are dry. I have a solo match hanging out in here. That's what you think. I actually have 3 matches. This one's just floating in the bottom, but you can see here I have 2 matches taped on there and a large safety pin. And not only, again, could I use this as some sort of fishing hook, but I can also use it to get, you know, dig something out of my skin, or as a fastener with that big old pointy needle. Not that I'd want to. There we go. You can see up there I have a large sewing needle in there. And here I have 2 nails. What could you really use them for in the woods? Obviously for fasteners, connecting things, nailing things. You could add them to traps. You could take some of your cordage and then take 2 pieces of wood, put a little notch in there, and you could fasten that as like a little nail tip. Now I know it doesn't stick in like something barbed into an animal, but it would help have a nice point and a pierce if you wanted to use it as like a little spearhead, or you could take a couple of them to help you make like a frog gig. One thing to keep in mind is that, again, this is a kit for a contest. You know, this is not my everyday carry because, you know, on me at all times, I always have a lighter and I always have a knife. Also in the tin, there we go, is a little Fresnel lens. And I've started a few fires with lenses just like these. It's got a credit card effect, so which is a good method of removing a stinger. So if you had a little stinger in there, you just kind of away from the wound, use that card to get it out. The great thing is that there are so many things here that are for both categories, you know, or multiple categories, you know. So the fire, you know, I have the pencil shavings, the Bic, I have the matches, the wet fire tab, I have the candle, the Fresnel lens, I can use the Gorilla Tape for fire, the alcohol wipe, you know, I can use the Band-Aid wrappers, and then I could use the tin itself for fire because I could use it to transport fire if I needed to hold embers or make char cloth or punky wood, you know, punky char wood, things like that. There we go. I got a little sheet here that kind of goes over everything, but I'll post, I'll just have everything scroll across your screen in a second, and I look forward to using it in March. So I've been watching a lot of videos on these, just trying to get it put together. Thanks for watching again. Subscribe, hit the bell, get notifications, hit me up on Instagram, and I will see you in another video real soon. And last but not least, the little fire striker. That'll be on the inside lip, right over there.